This build was kind of my pride and joy of 2014. This is a 1992 Dyno VFR Custom XXXL. It has a 22-inch top tube, and the front triangle is bi-moly, or chromoly top tube and down tube. Pretty ridiculous build. Why? Pretty much because Dyno's racing format never offered anything, you know, in real pro-size geometry. 19.5-inch top tube, I think, was pretty much their longest. I think even the Nitro never really topped that. So I wanted to do something that I could actually fit comfortably these days. You know, a lot of us generation-wise grew up on dynos, and we just flat out don't fit them like we used to. But you know, we still kind of have that need to pay homage to the name, or you know, to, I don't know, revisit those memories and whatever. So this is the answer. This is my answer to that. I had picked up a complete 92 Dyno VFR on trade, knowing that this was the target of what I wanted to do. And then I had a Gary Fisher mountain bike that was the donor material for the front triangle, and I grafted the two frames together, and then I had to take it further from there by adding the rear disc brake. I went with basically a real factory inspired paint job. The 1992 Dyno was offered in a fade to black paint job that was like gunmetal on top and black on the bottom. The gunmetal I used is a little bit darker, but it still really hints at the factory inspired paint job. Came out great. I did these custom decals. You know, I did them neutral in color. I've said before, I really like neutral color builds. You know, because if you can look badass without being really flaunting any colors, you know, if you can get the looks without having loud colors, you know you're really onto something. I did this custom down tube decal here. You see the classic Dyno triangle gusset behind the seat post there. 180mm profile styled 1948 cranks. They're not actually profiles, they're just some blanks. I don't know who actually made them. We're all sealed cartridge bearing except for these pedals. I dig these pedals though. Nice low profile pedal. Pretty modern looking. You know, and with that platform look, these are kind of neat because they could kind of go freestyle, or they could go race, or even downhill mountain bike, whatever, something, you know, to that effect. Alright, here's the disc brake bracket that I added. I don't think you can, oh yeah, you can kind of see it right there, that it's stamped MGS built across there. And there's the Dyno round D stamp. The Z-rims just kind of happened for me. One Z-rim had come on a bike that I had bought at a swap meet, and it was a black 36, and then I happened to get another 36-hole hoop real cheap, so I painted them both black. You know, these are really old. Their condition was kind of rough, so I didn't feel too bad about painting them. Added some decals to them, and it's nice to know that those sidewall decals will always be glowing with that disc brake on there. I did a custom seat post for it. It was just a chromoly mongoose laid back seat post that I cut off and then welded on a top like micro adjust portion from another donor seat post, and I cut it off like right where I wanted it, that it gave it a little bit of layback without too much. That was a new old stock seat. These are the factory 92 Dyno handlebars. The fork. I almost forgot about the fork here. That's actually a RockShox fork that I welded the rear. I took the rear dropouts from the Gary Fisher that was used as the donor material for the front triangle of the frame, and reshaped the rear dropouts to be exactly the same as each other, because one had the derailleur hanger on it, you know. And so after a little bit of sculpting and reshaping them to match, I welded them on the end tips of the RockShox fork. And it just so happened when I ditched the rest of the suspension leg for the RockShox fork, it was just pretty much the right length already to become a 20-inch fork from there. So I polished the crown. I stamped MGS built in the crown and polished that out. And so what we have is a heat-treated chromoly steer tube pressed into a aluminum crown with chromoly legs. And it's a pretty neat fork without really costing too much other than labor. So that came out pretty cool. And then a classic made in the USA DK like XXXL stem, which goes real well with that stupid long bike. I mean, this thing is just, it is ridiculously long. It is so huge. It's a limo. It's really comfortable though. And you can be easily like 6 feet and ride this thing around. 22-inch top tube, center to center. Center of the seat mast to the center of the head tube, measuring through the length of the top tube. It's a core brand rear hub. And it's a cassette style hub, meaning it has a freewheel built into it, and you just change the cogs out. And then it already has disc brake bosses like machined into the other side of the hub. Stainless steel spokes, straight gauge in the rear, butted in the front. Thanks for having a look.